All right, loved ones, what's good? What's happening is people start to filter in here. Monty McNair is going to be speaking to the media coming up at the top of the hour, as we try to do on a pretty regular basis. We will carry that for you live here on ESPN 1320. Geared up because got a busy day of media with Sarah Hodges and my man Ben Ross immediately following the Raiders and Bengals. Be over there on CBS 13 Sports Extra, and then Sports Sunday tonight also on CBS 13. Kenny won't be with me today. Kenny will obviously, D'Lo and KC tomorrow at noon, but Kenny has some things going on today. Kind of thought this would happen. You can never really plan for this stuff. I honestly was surprised. Like we talked about it Friday on the show. Like I thought if Luke Walton lost both of these games, he was out. I didn't really think there was much, to be debated about that, much to be talked about as it pertains to that. I thought if the Kings lost both of these games, he would be gone. I actually didn't think they would lose both. Turns out not only did they lose both, they were humiliated in both. And I think that's as big of a problem as losing the game, because when you watch that game Friday, I honestly, I know I told you, I thought Luke wouldn't make it past the weekend if they had lost two. I didn't think he was going to make it past Friday. That game on Friday was just a massive, massive embarrassment. It looked like the team was done. And I think that's where you start to get into this. That's where things get dicey, is when you watch a team and you go, yeah, this team quit. Like they done. They're out. That's where it gets a little, man, I don't know how you recover from that. And of course, this is from a completely, this is from an outsider's perspective. Talking about players quitting, man, they had no life in that game. Absolutely none whatsoever. They looked dead in the water. And I don't know how you recover from things like that. Like after that Friday night, I'm sitting there watching, like, how do you walk in here tomorrow and coach? Now, obviously, there's the circumstance of the game being tomorrow. There's a circumstance of the game actually being the very next day. It's the circumstance of a back-to-back. So I kind of understood that, but at the same time, man, how different are things going to be? Like, how different could things possibly be the next day? And as we learned, I mean, they were different for 3 quarters. But then the fourth quarter came, your man courtside puked, and Kings were down. I think the Kings were down 14 when the dude puked, but goodness gracious, man. It's just all bad. I'm seeing this here. And by the way, you guys are the co-hosts today. Until we get to Monty McNair, the question is, will the media availability be streamed here? Absolutely. We'll be streaming Luke Walton's media availability right here. So we will have that coming up for you around 3:00. I have the Zooms pulled up in front of me. Nothing is started over there, but as soon as it's time, we'll definitely go there, and you'll hear Monty McNair, man. I'm curious. I'm curious to hear what he has to say. And I've told you this before. I rooted for Luke Walton. I wanted Luke Walton to succeed, mainly not because I think Luke Walton is a good coach, because I knew if Luke Walton wasn't succeeding, that the team was losing. I knew if we got to this point where Luke Walton was fired, it means the team was losing. It means the team lost. It means it was all going bad. And that's not something, it's not something I wanted to deal with. I'm assuming it's nothing you wanted to deal with. I'm assuming it's nothing anybody wanted to deal with. Like, nobody wanted to deal with the Kings being 5 games under 500. Now, man, 5 games, this is as far from a insurmountable, lead. It's far from a insurmountable deficit, I should say. Like, oh, they're not going to be able to bounce back from this. Nah, I don't think that's the case. 5 games under 500, and that's not necessarily because, oh man, I think so highly of the Kings. No, it's more because I think the West is garbage. The bottom of the West is terrible. Perhaps even more frustrating is the Kings are losing to all these teams at the bottom of the West. Kings lost to Oklahoma City. Kings lost to Minnesota. Like, God damn, man. Those are teams that you're competing with. Like it's one thing to lose to the Milwaukees. It's one thing to compete with Utah and lose against them. But now you're losing to the teams you desperately need to beat. And for me, that's the point where I got, how do you get out of this? I don't know if this is going to fix everything. My belief is this ain't going to fix everything. Hell, man, I don't even know if this is going to fix anything. I think it helps. I mean, if it doesn't, boy, like if this doesn't spark something, anything, man, what does that say about? And we'll talk a lot about De'Aaron Fox tomorrow. We'll talk a lot about that press conference. I'm a De'Aaron Fox fan. There aren't very many guys on the team I'm not a fan of. I'm not the biggest Buddy Hield fan. I think we really got to chill with the way we talk about Buddy. Not us. Y'all know what we say. But the way Buddy is covered is just fascinating to me. Buddy was trash. He played like absolute garbage for 2 games. And then he comes in and he hits like 3 shots in a row. It brings his 3-point percentage up. And people who don't watch the Kings play think that Buddy Hield is an elite shooter. James watches the Kings every night and calls Buddy Hield an elite shooter. And I guess in a nutshell, with no other circumstances involved, you can be an elite shooter, but it mean nothing. Buddy Hield's shooting doesn't mean anything. We got to take a look at De'Aaron Fox. We got to talk about that press conference. That press conference was, man, when I saw, because I get tired, I'll log in, I'll catch. I think it was Harrison that night. I was curious what Luke was gonna say. Shoot, I was curious if Luke was gonna make it to the press conference on Friday night. But I'm past. Like, I'm not hanging around for De'Aaron. De'Aaron's new gimmick of showing up, an hour and a half after the game or whatever. That's a hard pass for me, dog. I ain't gonna do that. So when I opened up the phone and saw Brandon Nunez tweet that video, it's like, oh, word. Okay. My man looked like a kid in detention. Like legit. He looked like a kid who had been sent to detention. Just sitting there sulking, looking down, and he's been doing that regularly, man. And if that's, I get it. Like, I get the pressures. I get the frustration of losing, but like, you're kind of the dude tasked with fixing this, fair or not. And maybe that's what this all boils down to. Maybe it's not fair. Maybe it's not fair to task him to be the guy to come in here and fix everything. For those just tuning in, yes, we're definitely streaming the press conference. Absolutely. We got you covered. As soon as Monty McNair talks, as soon as the press conference goes live, we'll go to it. I'll get the screen ready for you right now just so you can see. Bam, ain't nothing happening there. So as soon as we get logged in, man, we'll go to it live. But I get if De'Aaron's frustrated, like, I get it. I get all of that. But you've got to carry yourself a certain way. And that was tough. It was tough seeing him Friday. And some of those, I mean, he had a full I don't give a fuck vibe to him. Excuse the kids that are listening. I don't think there are any kids listening. But for those who are, do as I say, not as I do. Don't talk like that. But come on, man. He did not give a damn. And that's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for Kings fans when you're looking at your team going, man, there were hopes like there's nothing I hope y'all know by now, there is nothing disingenuous about me and Kenny in the way we do this show. Like, we're genuine in the way that we talk. We're genuine in the way we feel. And everything that we said about this team is 100% genuine. We don't have any ties to the Sacramento Kings other than they play here in Sacramento, other than we cover them. Our job is to cover them for you. We don't get paid by the Sacramento Kings. We don't get texts or emails telling us what we can and cannot say. That's how somebody else did the deal with the Kings. That's not us. So when we said we believed in the team this year, we fucking meant it. We believed in what we believed in what Monty did. We believed in how they were building this team. And I didn't believe in Luke Walton, but I was willing to give Luke Walton a chance. I was willing to give Luke Walton a chance. I actually believed in Luke Walton enough to think, this conference isn't very good. There's a couple of teams who are completely out of it before the season starts, and they'll be able to fend off some of the other guys that they're fighting with. And here we are, already lost. What is it now? 7 of 8? God damn, man. Like I said, we believed in them headed into this year. That was genuine. Thinking like, there's enough here. You put Buddy in a different role, I'm with it. You put Buddy off the bench, I'm with it. Tyrese going to take that step, and we've got to talk about that too. We got to talk about the pressures that we put on Tyrese Halliburton. We got to talk about the pressures of, we look at some of these dudes and think, man, let's get that next jump, right? Let's get that sophomore season jump, kind of like what De'Aaron Fox had. De'Aaron had a ridiculous sophomore jump, but we look at that like it's the norm now, and that's not normal. What De'Aaron did, as frustrated as we might be with De'Aaron Fox now, what he did, that was special. From year 1 to year 2, even from year 2 to year 3, that was special. But to start looking at, I think we made I'll speak for myself. I made 2 fatal mistakes when assessing the team before the season started. One, I'm guilty of it. I expected a different kind of jump from Tyrese Halliburton. I expected, I expected everything to be seamless. Like Tyrese moving into a new role, this is going to suit him perfectly. That's kind of how that's what I envisioned for him. I feel like he's so mature. He's so locked in. He has such a great understanding of the game. At worst, he's going to be what he was last year. That's how I felt headed into the season. That was probably unfair. That's fatal error number 1. In my assessment of the Kings, is thinking like, this young man is still learning the game. Hell, we even mentioned this last year. He really isn't quite sure what being an NBA player is like. Sure, in terms of basketball, he knows what it's like. In terms of practices games every other day. He's aware of that. But remember last year, they was essentially on lockdown. They essentially couldn't go anywhere last year. You travel to New York City, you ain't going out. You ain't going to the club. You ain't going nowhere. At least you ain't supposed to. Take your happy ass back to your room. Like, he didn't even have the NBA experience. So there are a lot of things that Tyrese Halliburton is still learning. And there is a difference, both offensively and defensively, between starting and coming off the bench. Me for not taking that into account when I was trying to assess the team headed into the year. Fatal error number 2. Man, we was riding with Davion. Now, not that in and of itself is the error, but we wanted Davion to pick up the game as quickly as Tyrese Halliburton seemed to pick up the game at the beginning of last year. Because I know you recall how great Tyrese Halliburton was at the beginning of last season. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Shoot, he was Mr. Fourth Quarter at the start of last season. And there are certainly moments, and you don't have to look very far. I can't remember any particular moment against Portland, though I'm sure there is one, but I remember the home opener. Everybody remembers the home opener where he just rips the ball away from Donovan Mitchell, and it's like, this kid is it. Yes. He walks in here. He's an older rookie, as we say. Come in here. He's got that flow. He could pick up the game right away. Let's go. Let's get at it. Okay. And it feels like a lot of that is slowed down. Maybe not to any fault of his own, but he's still learning the game. And that's fair. It's fatal error number 2 on my part. And perhaps fatal error number 3 is I gave Luke Walton too much damn credit. And remember, I didn't think Luke Walton was a good coach. I'm not sure that he was an awful coach, but I didn't think he was a good one. I didn't, and I get it, and we've talked about it. Like, yo, his time in Sacramento, you've had the COVID years, you had the COVID cutoff. I don't believe things are as simplistic as other people do. Like the Kings were, the Kings were on a certain trajectory. They were headed into that big game on March 11th, I think it was, against the New Orleans Pelicans. ESPN, Golden One Center. This was the moment. Man, how many times have the Kings been in moments like that where they fall short? Shit, we saw it last year. They had one of those moments against the Spurs and they died. They were playing their best basketball of the year. Wildly enough, without Tyrese Halliburton or De'Aaron Fox, but they were playing their best basketball of the year. We knew you've got to beat San Antonio. And they couldn't do it. But for some reason, we go back a year prior and we think, yo, they're headed into this game against New Orleans. They get that win. It's playoffs, baby. Man. Boy, we really fool ourselves when we don't actually see what's happening. Getting us set up for the call, man. Excuse me 1 second. There we go. We really fool ourselves into believing these different things can happen. Oh, that was the year everything was going to change. And of course, there's nothing more frustrating, or perhaps there are few things more frustrating than not knowing the answer to something, right? To seeing 80% of a movie, but not being able to see the end of it. You don't know how the movie ends. We romanticize stuff. We don't know how that COVID year would have ended, but we've put this vision in our head. Oh, that would have gone well, and oh, Luke would have done good. And goodness gracious, all of these years later, we're still blaming the damn India trip. You're telling me the entire season was thrown because of a preseason trip to India? Word? Man, we come up with an excuse after excuse after excuse to not acknowledge Luke Walton is bad at his job. What is the excuse in Los Angeles? What's the excuse for those teams regularly falling short? Oh, well, they were fourth in the West before LeBron James got hurt. Fourth? We're repping fourth? You've got a LeBron James-led team, and we're talking about fourth? Man. Goodness gracious. We excuse after excuse after excuse. We come up with it. My man Rasan getting the mic set over here. We should be preparing to hear from Luke Walton. Excuse me. We won't be hearing from him. We should be preparing to hear from Monty McNair probably in the next 5 minutes or so. So as soon as Monty McNair sits at the podium, my word, you will go live just to give you a little peek. That's what's popping off right there. And yes, I do have the logo twice there on the screen. That's brilliant marketing on my part. But I came into this season and I gave Monty the benefit of the doubt. Or I did give Monty the benefit of the doubt. We're going to talk about that for a minute, but I gave Luke Walton the benefit of the doubt as well. Like, this roster's good enough. This Western Conference is bad enough, and you can get it done. I was hoping for 41. I really did think 40 was realistic. I was hoping for 41. I wanted to see 500. It's legit what I wanted. Imagine, I'm asking for 500. Can't get it. Now they're 5 games under 500. And things don't get, you got Philadelphia coming here tomorrow. You got Portland coming up. You got the Lakers around the corner. How is this going to get any easier? Now with the Kings, I get it's difficult to look at their schedule and try to make heads or tails. right? Because they started out the year with an incredibly difficult schedule, and I thought showed a pretty decent showing. I thought we had seen so much with them sitting at, what's the highest they were? 4-5, 5-5, whatever they were around that. Like I felt like we had, yeah, okay, this will work. They're going to be battling around this marker. Maybe they get above 500, but then they fall 2 games under 500. Maybe they get within a game 500, and it kind of goes that way. But we got to 5 games under 500, 16, 17 games? Man, that's unacceptable. But part of the reason it's unacceptable is because my damn expectations were too high. Way too high. 41-41, expectations too high. And I think Tim Maxwell had the record. Like it's like I think they're on pace to like a 28 win season right now. It's like, oh man, come on. 28 win season. Huh. Now I don't believe, it's hard to figure out. We've already seen two completely different teams. Which one is this team? Are they that competitive? Because I'm going to stop short of saying, are they that good? Because good is a bit of a stretch. But, hey, that was right there. Are they that competitive, or are they this bad? Which one is it? And why all of a sudden is this team so damn lifeless? Why are they so lifeless, and who on the roster or who on the coaching staff can breathe life back into them? Because I don't know who that is. I know who the Kings have pegged it to be. Yo, Alvin been here. I'm not saying you go get an outside hire. It was shady when Minnesota did it. It would have been shady if Sacramento did it. It would have been telling. It would have been shady. But Alvin's going to get these dudes motivated. Now, I'm not saying that the answer isn't Alvin Gentry. I'm not saying that a better answer would have been Doug Christie or Bobby Jackson. I'm not saying any of that. I don't know what the answer is because I can't compute what we're seeing. It's one thing for a competitive basketball team to lose. It's another thing for a once competitive basketball team to now be completely lifeless. That's the part I can't wrap my head around. You went from competitive to lifeless in a very short period of time. I don't understand that. We're still waiting for Monty McNair to take the podium. As soon as he does, we will go to it live. That is the scene right now at the Golden One Center. So as soon as Monty McNair sits down at the podium, we will go live. Another thing I think worth pointing out is, the guy we're about to hear from, Monty McNair, shouldn't be absolved or given a pass in all of this. I told you I was rooting for Luke Walton, and I genuinely meant that. I was rooting for Luke Walton because I didn't want to get to this point. And for me, the second James Ham tweeted, Luke Walton will be back as the head coach next season, Luke became Monty's guy. Now, if you're familiar with the show, maybe it's not his guy. Maybe that's not his, his ace. But that's his dude. Because he made the decision to bring him back. Now, I know that there's speculation. Maybe he didn't make that decision. Maybe he didn't. But I ain't heard otherwise. If I had heard otherwise, I'd tell you. If someone had told me, yeah, I don't think that was Monty's decision. I think that was ownership's decision. I'd tell you, I ain't heard that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I ain't heard it. So I can't really run with that. And how much money did you save by firing him 17 games into the season? But you don't have to pay him. You still got to pay him, 60 some odd game checks. You didn't really save that much money. And you made yourself look like an ass because once again, as so many of you are aware, we're back to being the joke of the NBA. Oh, you couldn't open Twitter. Once you scrolled back past angry fans, once you scrolled past some local media, boy, you'd see what the national media had to say. You'll see it. It's right there. They's letting them jokes fly. And how can they not? 17 games into the year against a guy, or 17 games into the year for a guy you couldn't have possibly have been that confident in before the season started. Because if you were, we wouldn't be here. And I don't even know why you'd be even remotely confident in Luke Walton. I don't think Monty McNair has made a lot of mistakes. Though, time will tell here in the next 10, 15 game stretch. But, you know, we saw the erratic, and this is coaching for sure. Mo Harkless, Terrence Davis, the sudden reemergence of Marvin Bagley into the rotations. Like, those are all things that I have questions about. Those are all things that we're going to talk about. But everything that we had heard, we knew very little about Monty McNair prior to him being hired as the Sacramento Kings general manager. One thing we did know, and shout out to Joe Adge, who did just an incredible amount of research during that GM search. One thing we did know was Monty works close with the coaching staff. So when we see things on the floor, it's hard for me to believe that all of a sudden, Monty McNair is no longer involved with the coaching staff. It's hard for me to believe that it's just Luke Walton's decision to insert Marvin Bagley back into the lineup. It's hard for me to believe that it's just Luke Walton's decision to remove Terrence Davis and or Mo Harkless. And if I'm correct in that assessment, then this dude bears some of that blame.
It's a short opening. Starting the room with questions, then we will go to Zoom. So everyone on Zoom, please raise your hand if you have a question. One.
All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Sorry to bring you all in on a Sunday, on a non-game day. After a thorough evaluation of where we're at, I've decided to make a coaching change. As you've seen, Coach Luke Walton has been relieved of his head coaching duties, and Alvin Gentry will be our interim head coach. So with that, I'll take questions.
Yeah, Monty, what we've seen over the last, I'd say, 2 weeks from your team is a team that has let go of the rope. They sort of quit on a coach, but also quit on themselves, quit on the franchise. How do you change that? Because that seems to be the biggest problem that you have at this point. I mean, do you make trades? How do you hold them accountable for their actions on the court?
Yeah, I think we at the beginning of the year, we were 5-4. We thought we could be even better with how we had played. We didn't finish a few games there. The last 8 games have not been that. And, that prompted the change. And I think we have the talent. We've shown that we can to do that. And so we're going to get back to that. And Alvin's going to be the guy to lead us there.
Monty, I actually have 2 questions. The first question, has there been any agreements from any of your players about the coaching that has taken place in the last 17, 18 games that you can share with us?
Yeah, look, I think we all know all of us have to be better. Especially over the last 2 weeks, over these last 8 games, is not meeting expectations. And that's not just on Luke. That's on me. That's on the rest of our coaches and players, and everybody acknowledges that. And so our focus now, starting tomorrow, is to get back on track. Some of the things that we have shown early on in the season, And it's on all of us to get there.
And in retrospect, considering how, the season ended considering how things ended, last season, and everybody with the expectation of, starting over this season, what went into your decision to keep going into this campaign?
Yeah, I think I addressed that at the end of last year, our decision at the time. And then my job is coming into this season to continue to evaluate and, did that after last night's game. And this was the decision to be made.
Money, obviously, results-oriented business, but from the 5-5 start to where you are today, is there anything beyond the wins and losses that concerns you with this group?
Yeah, I think for us, like you said, the 5-4, 5-5 start, I thought we could have been even better. We had a few games that we let slip. What we've seen over the last 8-9 games is not Kings basketball. My job is to put us in position. As we've stated, our goal is to make the playoffs. And until we get there, we're going to do everything we can to make the team better, to put ourselves in a position to get back there. And so to me, it was not any one thing. It was really an evaluation of everything of where we've been and where we're at.
And kind of just following up on that, continuity had been kind of a big topic over the offseason, coming into training camp, all that. In going from Luke to Alvin, do you keep some of that, obviously, since he's been here, or do you obviously see some changes there as well?
Yeah, I think Alvin, certainly in the rest of our coaching staff, there will be some continuity, but also Alvin's done a great job at many different spots. I think Alvin's seen a lot of things. He has a wealth of experience, and I think Alvin will put his stamp on things. But again, we've shown we can do this. We just have to get back to it, and we have to do it consistently.
Monty, back to the evaluation process. When you look at your team, are they good enough to pull out of this thing? And do they have the personality to pull out of this? Because that seems to be one of the things that's missing, the weakness in the personality.
Yeah, I certainly think so. The guys in that locker room, as we entered the season, a tough schedule, and really even the games we lost, we felt like we should have won a lot of those. So I think the belief is there, both in the locker room, among the rest of our staff. Obviously we don't take these decisions lightly, but this was one I felt was necessary to do just that.
Just one question. The rest of the coaching staff, the head coach, is there any other changes made in there, or are you going to keep that intact as well?
Yeah, the only other change to highlight is Rico Hines will move to the front of the bench, and we really love the energy that Rico has, his connection with players. He does a fantastic job, I think, as you all know, and he'll now move to the front of the bench and bring that energy from there.
When you look at just the start that you have, obviously you're not very far into the season. Is it safe to say that Luke had a very short leash? If it's, or were there when you look at this, is it beyond the wins and losses for you?
It's not coming in and having any sort of determination on that. It's I'm with the team all the time in communication with Luke, the rest of the coaches, the players, and we're always focused on how can we win the next game. But at the same time, my job is to step back and evaluate where we're at and what's the best way to move forward. And this last stretch, like I've said, is not where we want to be, and how can we get out of that and the last 60 plus games of the year, get back to what we need to do. And that was the decision that I came to.
Coach, breaking the news to the team, how was that done? And what's your feeling on how the team is actually taking this?
Yeah, as always, in communication with our players and around the team. I'll keep all the kind of internal stuff internal, but yeah, we addressed the team. I think the guys remain confident. We all know we have to get out of this 1-7 stint that we've had, but I think there's a belief in that locker room. I have belief in that locker room, and talking with Alvin and the rest of the coaches, they do too. So no doubt that we'll get out of there, and I think the guys are excited for tomorrow.
Okay, I will go to Zoom. Jason Anderson.
Hi, Monty. It wasn't too long ago, that you were saying you thought the coach to lead you back to the playoffs, and you did make the decision to bring him back. So I guess the first question would be, why now, just 17 games into a season, when at least part of those 17 games, you were getting some of the results you were looking for?
Yeah, as I said, that the start to the year was a lot of what we were hoping for, and really thought it could have been even better. And I think we saw a lot of the things that that we thought this team could do. But these last 8 games, was a change. And for me, the question became, what's the best way to move forward? And that's my job at every point of the season. And after last night, that was the conclusion. So it's really about the future and what we can do going forward.
Okay. Do you anticipate any differences in terms of the rotation, who's playing, who's not playing, just with this change and with someone new making those decisions?
Yeah, as always, that's the coach's decision. Alvin will make those decisions. I think we know, like I said, we're not where we want to be. We have 17 guys on the roster. Whoever is going to do the things that Coach Gentry asked them to do and that can win us games is going to be out there playing.
Anyone else on Zoom with the questions? Okay, we'll go back here. Oh, sorry, hold on. Come up with Dave.
Monty, was it just the losses, or was there something beyond the losses? Is there anything you can speak to as far as a disconnect, a tuning out, or something that just set alarm bells off for you beyond losing?
I think, we, it's a results-based business, but I think it's more of what can we do to get this thing back on track. I think offensively, we've played fast at times. I want us to play even faster. I think we can be the fastest team in the league with De'Aaron, Tyrese, the rest of the guys that we have. Defensively, we've shown some improvement, but we have to be able to finish possessions. We have to be able to get off the floor on the defensive end and get into our offense. And we have to finish games. Like I said, we were 5-4, but felt like we could have even been better. And then during this 1-7 stretch, we had a couple games that we let slip through. So, I think those are things we'll continue to focus on, and that Alvin will address along with his staff to the players.
Back to Jason Anderson.
Monty, so you got the same team. Your coaching staff is the same, other than Luke not being there. Alvin was running the offense. Mike was running the defense. What do you anticipate changing? What is, what's going to be different now?
Yeah, I think for us, it's continuing to do the things that got us off to a better start, do it more consistently. I think Alvin will put his stamp on things a little bit, just given his experiences. But I think we have shown that we can do it, and it's just doing that more consistently.
There was a report that obviously Doug was considered as a head coach. Furthermore, first of all, was that true? And just kind of what did you think in terms of Alvin versus Doug?
Yeah, Doug's been great since coming in. Obviously, former player, former Sacramento King, and his energy and playing experience has been awesome. He'll continue to be a huge part of our coaching staff. But Alvin just brings a wealth of experience, somebody who has seen it all, and we felt he was best to lead us going forward the rest of the year.
All right, Jason Anderson, last one.
Monty, one thing that always struck me about Luke was that he was pretty consistent in his messaging and what he wanted from the team, the things he was preaching. But I wonder, can a voice get stale? And was that maybe part of the problem that maybe he, as much as the players spoke up and seemed to support him, did you feel like maybe the voice wasn't resonating enough with them?
Yeah, I appreciate, of course, the question and Luke and all his efforts, here in Sacramento. I think Yeah, it was like I said, it wasn't any one thing. It was a combination of things, but sitting here with where we've been at the last 2 weeks, we felt we weren't getting the consistency and certainly the results we wanted. And this is, like I said, we all need to be better. This is not on any one person, but we did feel this was the change that was best to get us back to where we need to get to.
Thank you, Monty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, all right. There you have it. Meeting ends. Well, I think we all kind of get it by now, don't we? Like, we know what we are going to get from Luke Walton, or excuse me, from Monty McNair. And perhaps more importantly, we know what we're not going to get from Monty McNair. We're not going to get clear-cut, definitive answers to anything. He's not going to let us in on the process at all. I thought Jason Anderson asked a really good question, which, again, I appreciate everyone who is tuned into this right now. If you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. If you're not familiar with D'Lo and KC, we'll be on the air tomorrow at 12. And, of course, we'll be covering this in-depthly. We'll be covering it for 4 hours. I believe Jason Jones is going to join us. James Ham is always with us. We're working on a couple of other things. I'll shoot Jason Anderson a note as well, and we'll have tomorrow's show pretty loaded up for you. But why now? How did we get to this point now? Like, how did you go through the end of last season? Better yet, how did you go through all of last season? And go through everything that you went through, the sporadic play, the losing streaks, the ups and the downs, and go, you know what? This is the guy who's going to break the playoff drought for us. This is the guy who's going to get us back to the playoffs. That's what I need to know. How did you come to that determination? And how did you realize 17 games into the year where you saw exactly what he did last year happening this year? It's not like this stretch of bad basketball is something, oh my gosh, clutch the pearls. I've never seen this from a Luke Walton-led team. No, this is what we always see from a Luke Walton-led team. Why now? And he couldn't answer it. Or I don't want to say he couldn't answer it. He didn't answer it. Again, no surprise. That's the way general managers are. You're not going to get much out of them. And that's fine. But when you don't answer a question that is directly posed to you, it allows me to sit on the radio or a YouTube stream for hours upon hours criticizing you for it. Not that Monty McNair gives a damn about me criticizing him or anybody else criticizing him for that matter. Except maybe Tim Maxwell. I do think he wants Tim Maxwell's approval. But how are you shocked now? How are you surprised now? 17 games into the season. Why are you surprised? This is the epitome of Luke Walton basketball. I want it to be better. I hope it gets better. I hope Alvin is that dude, man. I hope Alvin is the guy that leads this team somewhere special. My man Will Z crunched a bunch of numbers for me about teams that move on from their head coach and have an interim coach and all of these different things. And we'll present some of those to you tomorrow. I think the one that I was most interested in, let's see, 13 of the 28. How many years has this been? Last 10 years, there have been 28 midseason coaching changes. 8 of the 28 teams made the playoffs. 6 of those 8 lost in the first round. Average winning percentage after change is 42%. 8 of the 28 new coaches finished the year with a record over 500. And this was the number that surprised me the most. 13 of the 28 came back the following year. Nate McMillan and Chris Finch both did it last year. J.B. Bickerstaff, Jim Bolin, Ryan Saunders, J.B. Bickerstaff, Earl Watson, Ty Lue, George Karl, Mike D'Antoni, Mike Woodson, Keith Smart, and Randy Whitman. So there's just a few notes on coaching changes there. Well, we'll have complete coverage of all of this tomorrow at noon. We hope you hit the thumbs up. We hope you subscribe. If you're new to the show, Tomorrow will be fun because we're going to talk about some things that I don't really want to talk about without my partner here. We got to talk about De'Aaron Fox and that press conference he gave on Friday. We got to talk about De'Aaron Fox and what's starting to look like a trend. Like it's not a one-off because of frustrating basketball. Like it's a trend with him. And like it or not, when you get the contract that De'Aaron got, your franchise, you are labeled as the franchise guy. You've got to act as such. And De'Aaron's, I'm going to stop short. We're going to talk about De'Aaron tomorrow. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Just a quick note, if you want more Kings coverage, go check out what Deuce and Mo are doing. I'm sure, I think I see a note here. They got Sam Amick joining them. So head over to check them out. Also, CBS 13 immediately following the Raiders and the Bengals. I'll be on with Sarah Hodges and my man Ben Ross, and we'll be discussing more in a much more toned down fashion. We'll be talking more about this situation with Luke Walton, and we're going to talk a lot about Monty McNair tomorrow, man. Like, cause I just don't know how anyone looks at this and says, okay, let's go. It's Monty's team. Like, no, it was Monty's team already. But now, I felt like, again, and then now I feel like an asshole. I genuinely felt like they had done some things that were working. They had done some things in the offseason that click. I like this. Good stuff. Okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute. Terrence Davis, Mo Harkless, that's Monty. Now I'm not going to criticize that, Monty needed to trade Buddy. He tried. He just wasn't able to. He very publicly tried. He just didn't work. Not his fault. LeBron's fault. He wanted Russ, not Buddy. Well, Laker fans wanted Buddy. I wanted Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell. That would have changed some things headed into free agency. It didn't happen. So there you have it. Again, we appreciate y'all tuning in, man. Thanks for hanging out for a few minutes on this Sunday. Sorry, KC couldn't be with me. It is a Sunday, my man. See, I just got the dogs, man. The dogs are right here with me. KC's got, celebrating Reese's birthday. So we'll be back at it tomorrow at noon. Again, if you want more Kings content, head over to check out Deuce and Mo and make sure you check out CBS 13 for Sports Extra following the Raiders game. Again, appreciate y'all, man. We will see you 4 hours of this tomorrow at noon here on ESPN 1320.